Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing great. Today I want to discuss some tips for Steam gaming on Linux. Even though in my first video I said that the experience is pretty much works out of the box, what if you need to get a bit more hands-on with the game itself? First, I will repeat what I said in my first video about the out-of-the-box experience. Since I'm on Nobara, I look for the Proton Plus compatibility layer, maintained Proton GE, maintained by the person that also made the Nobara Linux. You can download the latest version, and in Steam you can go to settings, compatibility, and just select it from here. If you select it in the Steam settings, it will automatically apply to the games, but I noticed sometimes that it's not the case, so I suggest, even though you select it in the global settings, to go to priorities, compatibility, and also select it from here. Some online resources that are useful: ProtonDB, you can see the games that are on Steam and can be played on Linux and how well they are able to be played on Linux. For example, Ultra Kill, Platinum rating, runs perfectly out of the box, but in case you have problems, it's worth looking through here to see what other players did, for example, for custom launch commands. But I will also discuss about those a bit later. Another resource that is useful is Are We Anti-Cheat Yet? For online multiplayer games that use anti-cheat. You can see here which one is supported by Linux, which one is not. Now, this was pretty much the out-of-the-box information that you need. The games will just run, you won't have any problems. But what if you need to be a bit more hands-on with the game itself? For example, you can right-click, browse local files, and it will open the game files for you. In here you can maybe find some textures, something that might be useful. It's not always the case. I will show a bit later when I needed to explore those files. But if you need something more in-depth, like for example swapping save files, well, it is a bit more complicated. So if I open up my file manager, I need to somehow navigate to the save file in Steam. Steam is automatically installed on Nobara Linux in the home directory, and most of the games, unless you tell them, they will be installed in here as well. So you can go to Steam, Steam Apps, and you have this folder right here, Compat Data. Now you have a lot of numbers in here. How do you know which one is the correct game folder that you want to search for? Well, that is actually pretty easy. You open up Proton Plus and you go to games. So in my case, Dark Souls 2 has the ID 335300. I go back into the game files and I look for it. Now, it's not in the home directory because I also installed Steam games on my extra storage. In Steam library, Steam Apps again, Compat Data again, and here it is, the ID that we just saw in Proton Plus. I open this, and what does Proton do? It basically simulates the Windows environment inside of Linux. So to find the save file, for example, you go to PFX folder, C drive, users, Steam users, and then either application data, Dark Souls, and this folder right here contains the save file, or the long way around, app data, roaming, Dark Souls, save files. The result is the same basically. Something else useful regarding Steam: as you can see, I have wallpaper engine installed, and if I want to find the actual wallpapers and where they are stored, I go to my storage location, in my case the extra SSD, Steam Apps, Workshop, Content, and this is the ID of wallpaper engines. And as you can see, I have here physically all the wallpapers that I have stored. If you ever watch some game benchmarks, you noticed a lot of stats about FPS drops, CPU load, CPU temperature. Well, you can obtain those by using Mango HUD. And if you don't have it installed, on a distribution with a package manager like Nobara, well, you can just open up the package manager and search for it. So you can see here Mango HUD, and if you want to have an easy time configuring it, you can download Mango Juice. In here I can select whatever metrics I want to show when I load it up. And if you want to load it up in a game, that is actually very easy, especially if you have GameScope installed. Again, open up the package manager, GameScope, and you can just install it from here very easily. Now, what does GameScope do? GameScope helps you with custom launch commands. So if I open up the terminal, I type GameScope --help, you can see here a big list of things that I can do. Now somewhere around here you can see the option --Mango app. This will open up the stats that I was talking about earlier. Now, as you can see, I have the panel right here that is showing me my FPS, my average FPS, the 1% lows, and this is how I configured it. You can add a lot more things to be shown. And while we are discussing GameScope, I'm sure that you saw a lot of launch options right here. Those will help you when a game doesn't behave properly. What do I mean by that? For example, in Dark Souls 2, because Niri is a bit special with its window management, let's say I delete all of this and launch the game. As you can see, because Niri has a special window management, it doesn't look quite right. It's not full screened, even though if I go into the settings, it says that it is full screened. In this case, I'm using the launch command options to easily full screen it. So what am I setting up with this launch command? I'm basically telling the game through GameScope to run natively 1080p, full screened, and force grab the cursor. That means that while I'm in game, the cursor will not be able to leave the game window. And this command right here is just to set a custom sensitivity. Now, if I launch the game, as you can see, it's full screen properly. And the video options are correct. And this is basically how you set custom launch commands. You start with GameScope and then you end it with --command to tell it that this is the end of the command. You have a lot more options in GameScope, as you can see here. The output width, height, nested width, nested height. What does that mean? Those two options right here basically set the native resolution, and those set the output resolution. So if you include both of those, and I will show an example in a minute, you basically achieve upscaling, and you can add a filter to tell it how to upscale. You can also add different levels of sharpness. Again, as I showed, you can change the mouse sensitivity. You can put frame limits, call the Mango app, call for adaptive sync, full screen it, just like I used before, force grab the cursor, and a few more options that you might or might not use. But let me show you a setup that I'm using for Dark Souls 3. As you can see, I'm telling it, and this is just for a test, I don't really need it, but to showcase it, I'm telling the game to run natively at 720p, but the output will be 1080p, and I want it to be upscaled with FSR sharpness. Now I'll show you how this looks by comparing the native 1080p, 720p, and the upscale version with different levels of sharpness. You'll see the image is a bit blurred, the textures are not as high quality, 1080p, nothing weird looking, everything is normal. Now I told the game to launch at 720p and be upscaled at 1080p with FSR filter enabled because I'm on an AMD graphics card. As you can see, the image is sharper, the details look a bit noisy, but you can change that because GameScope has a launch option that changes the sharpness effect. This is basically the equivalent to maximum sharpness, in this case 0. And this is how it looks with the sharpness turned down to minimum, to 20. You can play around with those values, but this is what you can easily obtain by upscaling from 720p to 1080p with just a few lines of launch commands. When it comes to controllers, they are pretty much plug and play. I have a controller, let me show you. I turned it on, and as you can see, this is the name of the controller, an 8-bit DO, works just fine. It's a wireless controller. And when it comes to wireless controllers, there's something important that you should do. You should enable Steam input. Why do you want to do that? Well, because I noticed that if I go AFK for a long period of time, the controller will turn itself off, and if it does so when the game is running, when I turn it back on without Steam input, the controller will not be seen by the game and I will have to restart the game itself. With Steam input enabled, that is no longer a problem, so I highly suggest you enable this. Something else that I discovered recently about controllers. It's an application, I haven't really used it, but it seems really neat. If you go to the package manager and search for Anti-Micro X, it's an application that allows you to bind keyboard keys to the controller. So if I move the controller stick, you can see here that I bound the WASD to the left stick. I bound the some mouse actions to the right stick. And this is very useful if you have some games that only support keyboard input but you want to play them with controllers. I tried it for a bit in Schedule 1 and it worked just fine, and as you can see, when the application is running, this works inside the Windows as well. If you want to install some mods for your games, I've noticed that you have two easy options. The first one is Fluffy Mod Manager, that is for Unreal Engine games. If I preview the file contents, you'll see here a bunch of files that are needed for the program to run and the executable. The way I installed it was actually very easy. I just saved the mod manager somewhere, and this executable right here, I just simply added it to Steam as a non-Steam game. I browsed for it, searched for the location, and selected it from here. After that, I simply selected the compatibility layer that worked the best. Basically, the same thing can be done with Unity modding, with Melon Loader. You can download for Linux, and this only has one executable. It's this one right here, and again, I just added it as a non-Steam game, and I didn't force any compatibility with it. When you run this one, for example, it will automatically detect the Unity games that you have installed. You go to the game, you select to install the modding for it, and after you install the modding, you have to go to the game files of the game, and you will see two folders that have been installed: the Melon Loader, that basically enables the mod itself, and the mod folder where you drop the files of the mod that you want installed. I have the zip in here, it's pretty much useless. You only need this file right here. And when you open up the game, first you will see that it loads the Melon Loader and then the game itself. And to show you that the mod is working, I go to unlocks, and as you can see, I can basically check everything that I need. For the Unreal Engine modding, you can choose the game from a list. You can also add it manually. You can enable and disable the mods themselves. And the way you actually install the mods for Fluffy Mod Manager, you have to go to the folder where you installed the mod manager. You go to the folder called Games, because those folders will appear once you installed the Fluffy Mod Manager for that game. And in the mod folder you just drop the zips in here and they will appear for modding. And to end this video, I will tell you about some problems that I encountered and how I fixed them. There weren't many, like 2 or 3 games. Batman Arkham Knight, I was using Proton Experimental instead of Proton GE. I noticed that in some side quests the game would crash with Proton GE, so I switched to Proton Experimental and that simply fixed it. For Wulong Fallen Dynasty, you have to go to the game files, go to archive, and in this folder right here you'll see that you have a lot of video files that are basically skill tutorials and cutscenes. The game itself was running well, but when I wanted to do anything related to the skills, like preview them or spec them, the game would crash. The way I fixed that was to go ahead and delete all those video files that showed the skills tutorials. To better showcase why you would want to delete those files, you go to learn a new spell, and if you navigate this menu right here, at some point that will happen. Now I deleted everything that looked like a skill tutorial, careful not to delete any cutscenes. I go to spells, learn spells, and as you can see there is no video preview, but now I am free to move around and select anything that I want without fear that the game might crash on me. The downside of this is that you don't have the visual aid to show you exactly what the skill does, but if the game crashes every time you look at it, well, there's no real point to it. And this is about it. For an easy, let's say, under the hood experience, now obviously you can do a lot more, and Steam is not the only platform that allows gaming on Linux. You also have other applications like Lutris for different game launchers. You can also do a more in-depth custom commands, but this, in my opinion, is the basic information that you can use to further improve your game experience on Linux. I hope this video helped. Thanks for watching.